I received an email recently asking for a comment on a few sentences made in a YouTube video by a well-known non-duality teacher. This video is my reply, because I get asked a few questions about this particular teacher, and I'm hoping I can, with great affection, clarify the enormous chasm between what Rupert says compared to what the supposed radicals seem to say. I don't know Rupert, but he seems a very gentle sort. And not only did I used to teach a similar thing, but I totally get his love for his subject matter. Can seem like bad sport to disagree with someone who seems so nice. However, I'll do my best to show the fundamental difference between the two non-duality views, and where Rupert, from his comment, seems to not understand the radical non-duality view at all. Right, to put you out of your suspense, here goes. And he does make a good joke, I'll give him that.
If anyone writes a book about these matters, has a YouTube channel, has a meeting, does webinars, has a website, they are by definition making a concession to the separate self. If they stand up and say, this is a radical teaching, there is no separate self, there's nobody here, there's nothing to do. If they really thought that, they would not be speaking. If there's nobody here, then who are they speaking to? Does awareness need to hear their talks and read their books? No. But who are they doing it for? The fact that they are doing it betrays the fact that they do think that there is somebody there to listen, and they do think that there is something for that person to do. What do they believe that person should be doing? Attending their meetings and reading their books. Otherwise they wouldn't have them or read them. So all teachings, even the ones that say this is totally radical, there's nobody here, there's nothing to do, it's not true. There are no radical teachings. Or rather, the only radical teaching is silence.
There is so much in just those few sentences that highlight the mammoth difference. His non-duality seems to have awareness in it, a someone with choice, a separate someone who can be taught something, and silence. And the other non-duality has no awareness, no one with choice, no one separate who could possibly do something, and no silence to be found, let alone it being a necessary prerequisite or a destination. Traditional non-duality has all the same hallmarks of being human-centric as all the religions. If you look at religion, you have man here, projecting a god in his likeness, a powerful being, able to create this amazing universe, yet weirdly unable to see beyond the narrow prism of good and bad, and creepily obsessed with the internal goings-on in this organ and these organs. Zen and satsang and traditional non-duality throws out this sort of thinking, declaring it as not much more than an infantile fairy story to feel safe. Yet oddly enough, they do still project that this bubble here, let's call it awareness, this here that apparently resides as your true self, is the foundation of everything. They say it's all awareness with a capital A. And if you work on yourself, interestingly, you're still told to do similar things, like clean up this organ and these organs, but maybe include the stomach as well by eating particular foods and avoiding others. If you clean up these organs, doing a myriad of strange exercises, you will realise, when and if you're ripe, that this is your true self. Let's take a look at the human brain. Busily squirting and oozing chemicals and electrons are flowing hither and thither, and because of the neocortex, it is able to project a sense of self and other. This fellow here is what we try and control. We like it when it imagines itself as good, don't like it when the brain imagines itself as bad. And if we have a spiritual bent, we really want this fellow here to be holy somehow, or enlightened. The traditional non-duality tells you that one day, if you get it right, this here will realise itself to be not this, but this. And that this is the same as the source of all. You might need a guru to help you get there. You definitely need help from someone who has already realised this themselves. The guru says they no longer have this little image of themselves, who is noisy and restless and easily triggered. No, that fellow has dissolved into this, and it is still silent consciousness. It is oneness itself. It is consciousness with a capital C. And this here is projected as one with the big consciousness, also with a capital C, that resides out here, as everything. In this non-duality, there is a you who goes from unenlightened to enlightened, given the right info. The new, and often called radical non-duality, is a bit like the reverse of those auto-stereogram patterns that you'd stare and stare at, only seeing the pattern, and suddenly you see a 3D picture in it. But it's in reverse. You've been looking at everything as 3D, and suddenly it's all the one appearance. The illusion of this drops, and this, leaving no one. The illusion of there being a separate observer is just that, an illusion. There is no big observer out there for this little observer in here to become one with. Consciousness is the illusion that divides everything. In fact, consciousness is not a thing or a noun. Consciousness means division, which is why it then seems extremely odd that there are non-dualists saying non-duality is becoming one with consciousness and consciousness is oneness, when consciousness is the division into two. You are conscious of something that requires two. So hardly oneness. There's a problem right there with just the basic arithmetics. It becomes obvious that the only thing that created the separation was the illusory sense of consciousness. As a thing, it's not really here. It's not like you are here with the consciousness and one day you will drop that consciousness and then start spouting radical non-duality. No one has a say in how the appearance appears. No one is organising the squirts of chemicals in the brain to have a particular thought, to make a choice, because there is already no one. There is an appearance of a someone having thoughts. There is an appearance of a someone with a neocortex, seemingly able to divide everything into me and other. It just so happens that in the appearance, there is an appearance of a human with the ability to divide. It feels like being conscious. It feels like consciousness is there as a noun. Some like to think this is what goes to heaven, or this is what gets reincarnated, or this is what becomes one with oneness. So it comes as a shock to find that this is nothing more than an illusory division. All those attempts to be spiritual drop. No more needing to go to a traditional non-dualist who can only view you through the prism of seeing you as a conscious you who needs to do something or knows something to realise yourself as vast all-knowing consciousness. Apart from certain things dropping away, probably not too much else will change in the appearance. No new knowledge, no new spiritual you, no you that has a say or not in events, even if it appears as if you do have a say. And no striving for stillness or silence. This here is movement and noise. There is a relief in sleep from no noise or movement. So this too gets projected as spiritual. You will be realised once you are still and silent. So you go seeking. This noisy active seeker turns up everywhere. It will never find stillness or silence. It's such a great setup, isn't it? A supposed you, as noise and movement, has to go on a spiritual quest to find something that doesn't exist. There is no silence on the planet. But don't worry. Because there is no silence, man has created it. For $200, you can pay a visit to 41 Cooper Street in New York and enter their anechoic chamber and experience 100% silence. However, go at your own peril, since it's been reported that some people who go there go mad. So much for finding silence as your longed-for spiritual destiny. The poor seeker, told by gurus to hunt out things that don't exist, or told that silence is the only radical teaching. The seeker doesn't even exist except as an illusion. Stillness and silence don't exist. Consciousness doesn't exist. That leaves what is as an entirely unknowable appearance. And no one separate from the appearance. It's already whole and complete, with no knowledge of itself. This everything doesn't have a neocortex with the ability to create the illusion of division to know itself. And even if it did have a neocortex, that knowledge isn't really knowledge, is it? Human knowing turns out to not really be knowing. Looks like knowing, but a brain dividing data, so it seems like there is a self who knows the data it is creating in the first place, turns out to be what? No one is there to answer that entirely unknowable question. So when non-dualists are saying, clean up the mind and emotions to find this empty, vast, silent consciousness, the radicals are pointing and saying, ooh, well, actually that's the only thing creating two-ness. And two-ness isn't real in the first place. It's that simple. Oneness is already what is, but with no witness. No one chooses which non-duality comes into their lives. Everyone is innocent. I adored Rupert's first type of non-duality. It's lovely getting rid of triggers and feeling like you've found stillness and silence as your true self. The second type is more like having the rug ripped out from beneath you. In a nutshell, Consciousness is a bit like a shadow. One non-duality says the shadow is real. It is a thing, and strangely seem to add on a fantasy that the shadow is your true self and is the source of all. Discover this and you can call yourself Sri Sri Amazing G and wake up the world to this truth. The other non-duality looks at the shadow and says, there is no actual shadow as a thing. It looks like a thing. We'll probably go on referring to it as a shadow, but it's just less light. It doesn't exist in and of itself. Consciousness is the one thing that can't be whatever this material is making up this appearance. Consciousness requires two. They've taken a verb and turned it into a thing. Feels like being aware, but there is just beingness. And when the me drops, it's just beingness without a witness. Even though you'll probably use language to say, I am aware of this fine wine. That's just what's seeming to happen, not really be happening. That is unknown. In the end, you know bugger all, because there is no one to know anything. So I can't sell a photo of myself or call myself Sri Sri Grand Poopji and advise anyone on anything. No me and no real you either. Just like your shadow isn't really real. Shame really. I have a lot of these in stock. How's the new puppet working? How do I look?
A bit frowny.
A bit frowny.
Yeah, you look fierce. Look surprised. Yep. Look quizzical. Yep. Now frown. Yeah, it looks a bit fierce. It looks like you're angry, even though you're not angry.
Oh, right. Botox then before the next video.